Hey, it's Jason here, and I quickly want to talk about the importance of credit, your credit score for doing your first deal. There's a lot of garbage advice many of you have received that, oh, your credit score doesn't matter. Oh, buy a Rolls Royce on credit. Oh, just buy like $5,000 suits on a credit card. None of that matters. Find somebody else to guarantee your loan. Da-da-da-da-da-da. No need to worry about your credit scores. Gosh, I've seen people get to the 1 yard line. I know one guy in particular. I'll tell you a very quick story. I know one guy in particular. This is an individual who's looking to do an environmental acquisition. They did phase 1 reports and all kinds of other stuff like that. And it was a company that did about $3 million a year, maybe even $4 million a year in sales. They were doing about $750,000 a year in EBITDA. It was a wonderful company. And the guy had a wonderful relationship with the seller, and he had all these banks lined up. He literally had bankers flying from. Just got cut there. Let's continue. So again, this was a guy who had everything working for him. You know, he had potential investors lined up. He had banks lined up. He had a banker flying from one of the key head honchos from a bank in Phoenix flying out to Los Angeles to meet him to discuss this deal. He had the seller who loved him, who desperately wanted to do a deal with him. But you know, he was taking advice, this acquisitions entrepreneur he was taking advice from one of the names you know very well, most likely, if you follow the M&A space here on the internet. He was taking advice from somebody who was basically saying, don't worry about your credit score, get somebody else to guarantee the loan, figure it out later, just put it on a credit card, all this stuff. And you know what happened to that guy? The whole entire deal fell through at the 1 yard line because he couldn't for the life of him find a guarantor to sign on the dotted line to give him the motherfucking money. And his credit score was absolute garbage. It was like a 500. Had he just had a 650 or better, he would have been able to get this multi-million-dollar deal done. But no. He was told your credit score doesn't matter. And that's just not true. Your credit score does matter. Make sure you don't max out your credit cards every month. In fact, never go above 50% of your credit limit. You always want to keep your utilization at or below 50%. That's number one. Number two, get rid of any and all unnecessary debt. Okay? The time to try to buy a Bentley is not when you're broke or before you've done deals. Don't spend $3,000 on a suit. Nobody's going to care anyways. This kind of stuff is dumb. It's dumb. That doesn't mean you can't get the Bentley. It doesn't mean you can't wear $5,000 suits. It doesn't mean you can't live in a penthouse and have all that stuff. It's about timing, chronology. There's an order to this. And step 1 is get your first deal done. Step 2 is get your second deal done. And then once you have a couple of acquisitions under your belt and you got a whole bunch of cash flow and you're growing the sales of these companies and all this, then you can start using finance to finance a Bentley and to, get a $5,000 suit. And by the way, you should be able to just pay for the Bentley in cash. When you're really kicking ass and taking names, you buy things cash if you want because you have a ton of cash. Okay, the best way to know if you can afford a Bentley is can you walk into the Bentley dealership or the Rolls Royce dealership and write them a check and know that check is going to cash. Until you can write a check and know it's going to cash, or better yet, until you can just come with a bag of cash into the Bentley dealer or the Rolls Royce dealer and pay for the vehicle in cash, including all the extras you want. Until you can do that, you probably aren't ready. You probably aren't ready. So all these people on the internet are selling you, Bentleys and Ferraris and Rolls Royces and fancy watches and Rolexes and penthouses. And you can just put it on credit now and figure it out later. No, I've seen people fail specifically because of that advice. Get your credit right, okay? I'm not a credit expert, but I can tell you this. Pay off your credit cards on time or early. Never go over 50% utilization. And get rid of all and any unnecessary debt. My first deal, before I did my first deal in hell, I just finally got rid of this. And I still have it, but I gave it to the maintenance man out at our property in Nebraska. It's a 2000 Toyota Tacoma with a little bit of rust over the wheel well. This old red pickup truck. Maybe some of you guys have seen it on my Instagram, on my Facebook. I love that truck. And I've been driving that truck for well after I closed my first deal. Why? Because it's a paid off truck. Doesn't have a nickel of debt associated to it. Doesn't have any costs associated to it. You know what it allows me to do? Stack cash and focus on getting financing for the things that really matter. Which are not Bentleys and cars and this and that. It's business acquisitions and real estate acquisitions that facilitate business. Okay, that's where I use my finance. That's the kind of stuff I finance. I don't finance anything else. I don't finance suits. I don't finance TVs. I don't finance furniture. I don't finance watches. I don't finance lawnmowers. I don't finance any of that garbage. because I'm trying to finance business acquisitions. And if you want to truly create wealth, I highly, highly recommend you do the same.